everyone, it's me. I'm gonna call this story time. I just wanted to give you guys the scoop on my health, so maybe that you could, understand more, or, I could say, oh, blah, 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 and you'll know what I mean. That's probably the most important part. I know I look rough. Oh my gosh, I haven't worn makeup in over a year now. And I've told most of you that this illness made me lose my teeth and my hair. So this is my hair growing back faster than I thought, but unfortunately my teeth will never grow back. So I'm in the process of trying to get dentures, which is very difficult. So my phone will only let me do a 10-minute video. So I thought we'd make it like a mystery and leave you hanging till the next part. So anyway, this all started way back in 2011. I was taking my youngest daughter to school. She was still in school then. And I slept and felt it was raining. I had on flip-flops. My dumb butt went out, in a rush. And I fell. And I ended up, a couple days later, with this lymphedema infection on my butt. And, because I fell on my butt. And I've been getting these infections since I was about 13. It's hereditary. My mom, my sister, my kids now, my girls. It passes along the girls in the family. And but I had never gotten one this bad. And then I got another one, and one, two at one time, and it was just awful. In the first month I had 19 of them. And I said to my doctor, I said, I don't understand what's going on. Oh, they're diabetic ulcers. No, I know what a diabetic ulcer looks like. This is not a diabetic ulcer. This is lymphedema. So basically my doctor didn't do jack poop, except put me on an antibiotic that he kept me on for 14 months, but that's for another story. So anyway, so yeah, I said that to my doctor, and he laughed at me. He was looking, I had one here on my forehead, and he was looking at that, so he's like this close to me, and he literally laughed in my face. And I didn't diagnose myself with lymphedema. I had to have a surgery a couple of years before, because I got one on top of the other, and it was pretty bad. And my doctor at the time said to me, I want you to see the surgeon. And the surgeon then is the one who said to me, this isn't cellulitis, this is lymphedema, which, which clarified it for me. So, I knew I was comfortable in saying what it was. And I guess somebody had written it down as cellulitis, I'm not sure. But anyway, so he was right here in my face. I moved my arm like this, and he moved out of the way. I picked up my purse, picked up my coat, and I looked at him and I said, you know what? You're a dick. And I walked out of the office, and I'm crying because, this is horrible. So I go up to the front desk, and I had seen another doctor in that practice that I really liked when my doctor wasn't in, but his nurse comes running after me. He wants to talk to you. I said, it's too late for that, He was always an arrogant jerk. I didn't really like him from the beginning. But anyway, so I started seeing this other doctor, and he's the one that prescribed me the antibiotics. I kept taking them and taking them and taking them. And so he'd put me in the hospital for a couple of days. I'd end up with MRSA, and I'd be in the hospital, pump me through antibiotics, and after a couple of days, send me home. And this happened, I think 5 times. And then I got one on my leg, and I have this big red mark on my leg that I've had about 5 or 6 different diagnoses of what it is. Nobody can figure it out. It's an autoimmune disease. And because of this autoimmune disease, I got a very rare disease called Pyoderma Gangrenosum. But then he's going to send me to infectious disease doctor. She's supposed to be so great, blah, blah, blah. And we're waiting, and months pass. So I called them myself, and I said to them, I said, why is this taking so long? And she said, we're waiting for your doctor's office to send us test results. I said, what kind of test? And she said, a biopsy. I said, well, he's never done one. I said to her, but I do go to the wound center. She said, oh, the wound center, yeah, we deal with them all the time. Have them call us. I said, okay. So my wound center doctor called them, got me in right away. So I go in to see her, And she looks at it, and I had blood drawn, and had me pee in a cup. And 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail from her saying that there was nothing wrong with me and that I didn't have to come back and see her. Now, you got to remember this because this is important later on. The letter was highlighted with a highlighter that said I did not need to come back and see her. So then he sent me to a dermatologist who was insane. She was crazy. She asked me what I thought it might be, and I told her, different things that other people had suggested or whatever. And a good friend of mine, his dad was very sick and had some symptoms that I had, and so I said that to her, told her about that, and she's like, yeah, only black people in Africa get that. And I was like, what? What did you just say? So I'm like, this woman's nuts, right? So she took a picture of it with her cell phone. That's the only thing she did, was take a picture of it with her cell phone, wrapped it up badly, and sent me on my way. So, a couple weeks later, I get a diagnosis. She gives it to my PCP. And I look up the word when I get home. It doesn't exist. The word doesn't exist. She made up her own word. I was like, oh my goodness sakes, right? So, anyway. So, after 9 months, I had this thing for 9 months. It's huge. It's probably a good 9 inches long, and it's getting deeper, and it's getting wider. And it was probably about that wide. So anyway, yeah, I smoke. It's terrible. I'm sorry. But anyway, so so one night I'm like, okay, I'm frustrated. I Googled wounds that won't heal. I was just frustrated. And a picture popped up, and it was the exact picture of my leg. I was like, oh my gosh. So I called the wound center in the morning, and they had me come in, and my doctor did a bunch of biopsies, because he decided he was going to check for everything, you name it, he was going to check for it. And he said to me, you do realize if we do these biopsies, then if this is pyoderma, it's going to get worse, because you can't debride or cut off or do anything like that with pyoderma. It makes it worse. And so the test results came back. Yes, I had pyoderma. And where he did the biopsy, it got so deep you could see the tendon in my leg. It was really horrible. And then the insurance company makes you start off with the cheap prescription. And I needed the very expensive one, but you have to go through it. That one doesn't help. Go on the next one. Go on the next one. So it's very expensive, it is. But so I finally got to, because it's a very rare disease, and so I finally got to the good stuff, and it started to heal. We were so happy. And because now it had been over a year, and then I don't even think it was a week that it was healed, and I got another one. Oh, we were bummed. We were truly bummed. And then I got one on my head, and then I got one on my shoulder, and then I got one on my lower back. Oh my gosh. Plus I still had the lymphedema infections going on. I bet I had been on every antibiotic known to man. And we moved here. We had lived here about 2 weeks, and I guess I'm out of it, right? I had this little wee mark on my left upper thigh. Sorry about that. And we didn't think anything of it because everything else was like huge. It was horrible, disgusting. And they rushed me to the hospital. I have emergency surgery for necrotizing fasciitis, which is the flesh-eating disease. I guess I had had a couple surgeries by the time I woke up in the ICU and realized what was going on. But I couldn't move anything from the waist down. And I was swelled up like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It was ridiculous. My shins were like tree trunks. I thought the skin was going to crack open. It broke a bunch of blood vessels. My arms were all purple. It was bad. It really was. And I couldn't lay down, and I was afraid to fall asleep because a couple of times I would fall asleep and I'd slide down and I couldn't breathe. And I would have a panic attack. And they would come in thinking I'm having a heart attack and give me that nitroglycerin thing under my tongue and whatever. And so they would give me something to help with the pain. I never had one before. It's the first time I ever had one. And so, um, so that helped. But it was 53 pounds of extra water weight. And at that time, I weighed a lot more than I do now. I've lost about 100 pounds. So, yeah, I'm right around the 10-minute mark, so I'm going to have to stop. I'll come back later and tell you guys, you know, how it goes, because I was in the hospital for over a month, so there's lots of stories to tell. Hope you enjoyed part 1, and I'll be back with part 2 later on. Thanks. Bye. Take care.